The bike was gone, and nobody said a word, for 3 weeks. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 34 years old. I live in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio. The kind of neighborhood where everyone waves at each other, but nobody really knows anything about anyone. We had a garage, a normal garage, tools on the wall, old boxes, and in the corner, my father's motorcycle, a 1987 Kawasaki Vulcan, black, scratched, beautiful. That bike wasn't just metal and rubber. That bike was the last thing my father left behind before he died. It was a Tuesday morning, November, cold. I remember because I was wearing the same jacket I wore to my father's funeral 2 years before. I walked into the garage to grab a box of old documents, and I stopped. The corner was empty. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, just staring, like my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. I walked around the car. I checked behind the shelves. I even opened the side door and looked outside, as if somehow that 600-pound motorcycle had wandered into the backyard. Nothing. I went back inside the house. My brother Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal. I said, "Marcus, where's Dad's bike?" He didn't look up. He said, "What bike?" And right there, in that 1 second, something changed between us forever. Let me take you back, because you need to understand what that bike meant. My father, James Mercer, bought that Kawasaki in 1991. He was 28 years old. He used to say that bike was the only thing in his life that made him feel completely free. No bills, no responsibilities, just the road. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine, that man would ride. 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. He never told us where he went. He just went. After he passed, heart attack, age 62, Marcus and I agreed. We keep the bike. We don't sell it. We don't touch it. It stays in the garage like a monument, like a piece of him that's still with us. We shook hands on it. Brothers. In our father's driveway. That was 2 years before the Tuesday I found it gone. Here's the part that will disturb you. Marcus never told me. For 3 weeks after I asked him, he deflected, changed the subject, got busy, got quiet, said things like, "I'll explain later, and it's not a big deal," and "You're being dramatic." 3 weeks, 21 days of silence between brothers. And during those 3 weeks, I started investigating on my own. I'm not proud of it. I went through his phone when he left it on the counter. I checked Facebook Marketplace. I called a few local bike shops. Nothing. But then, week 3, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. I wasn't looking for it. I was borrowing the jacket, and there it was, a folded piece of paper, $3,200. The buyer's name was printed at the top. Craig Hoffman, Columbus, Ohio. I stood in the hallway of our childhood home, the home we were both living in temporarily after our father died, and I read that receipt 4 times, and then I sat down on the floor, right there in the hallway, and I didn't move for a long time. The truth came out 3 days later. Thanksgiving dinner. My mother was there, my aunt, my cousin, everyone around a table that my father built with his own hands in 1998. Marcus made a comment about money, about how tight things were, about how he'd made a practical decision for the family. And something in me just broke. I said, "You mean selling Dad's bike?" The table went silent. My mother looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at me. And in that moment, Every person in that room understood that something had been hidden. Marcus said, "I needed the money, Daniel." I said, "You needed the money or you wanted it?" He said, "Does it matter?" I said, "It matters because you shook my hand." He said, "Dad's gone. The bike is metal. Metal doesn't bring him back." And I looked at my brother, this person I had known my entire life, and for the first time I saw a stranger. But here's where the story changes. 3 days after Thanksgiving, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. The man on the other end said, "Is this Daniel Mercer, son of James Mercer?" I said yes. He said, "My name is Craig Hoffman. I bought a motorcycle from your brother last month." I said, "I know." He paused. Then he said, "Before I bought it, your brother told me about your father. He told me the whole story, and I want you to know something." My hand tightened on the phone. Craig said, "I didn't buy that bike to keep it. Your brother made me promise something before the sale. He made me promise to restore it, completely, every part, original condition, and then return it to your family, on one condition." I said, "What condition?" He said, "That 6 months pass first. He said he needed 6 months to fix something." I called Marcus immediately. This time, he answered. And he told me the truth. The $3,200 wasn't for him. It was a loan arrangement. Marcus had found out, 2 months before, that our mother was behind on the mortgage of the house. Our father's house. The house with the table Marcus built. She hadn't told either of us. She was handling it alone, the way she always handled everything alone. Marcus sold the bike to cover the first 3 months. He had a plan to pay Craig back. He had already started a second job, nights at a warehouse, that I didn't know about. He didn't tell me because he knew I would have stopped him. He knew I would have said, "Find another way." He knew I valued the memory more than I understood the reality. And he was right. That bike came back to our garage 7 months later. Fully restored. Midnight black. Gleaming. Better than it ever looked when my father rode it. Marcus and I stood in the garage together. Neither of us said anything for a long time. Then I said, "I'm sorry I didn't see it." He said, "I'm sorry I didn't trust you enough to show you." And here's what I want you to hear, whoever you are, wherever you're watching this. The people who love you most will sometimes make decisions that look like betrayal, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, what looks like a wound is actually someone quietly bleeding so that you don't have to. Don't judge the silence before you understand the reason for it. My father taught us to ride. Marcus taught me to look deeper. The bike still sits in that garage. Neither of us has ridden it.